Okay.
Recording. All right, so welcome everybody to the CloudBank session for Campus Champions and the CARC People Network. Today our speakers are Mike Norman, who's the San Diego Supercomputing Center Director and the PI of CloudBank, and Shava Smallen, the SDSC Research Programmer and co-PI of CloudBank. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it right over to Shava and Mike. So thank you for being here.
Great. Thank you. Let me share my screen. All right. And let's go. All right. Is everybody seeing that?
Looks great.
Great. Well, thank you all for showing up and spending some time to learn about CloudBank, which is our name for the NSF Cloud Access Entity that was competed back in 2019. It is a partnership of UC San Diego, University of Washington, and UC Berkeley. And you see the PI and co-PI names down there. Ed Lazowska is on the phone or on the Zoom. David Culler, perhaps. Vince Kellen is the CIO at UC San Diego, and he plays an important role in this project. Now, the mission is really in the subtitle, Managed Services to Simplify Cloud Access for Computer Science Research and Education. And so what I want to do in 15 minutes is just unpack that for you a little bit. And I must say that I'm extremely pleased to be addressing the Campus Champions because we really need you as this program grows and reaches into the campuses. You will be our agents and partners in this. That's my hope. So the project team is somewhat larger than the 5 names you saw on the cover slide. There's quite a team at UC San Diego's Information Technology Services Division, as well as at SDSC. These people don't all get paid by this grant. There's not enough money. So there's a lot of contributed effort here. University of Washington has a number of people involved. UC Berkeley is just getting staffed up for this. We partner with a cloud reseller by the name of Strategic Blue, and the CEO is James Mitchell, who's serving a very important role in this project. We have an external advisory board chaired by our own Dana Brunson. You can see some of the other names there that I'm sure you'll recognize. We are launching with Amazon, Google, and Microsoft clouds, but we are in discussions with IBM and Oracle to add them. We are cloud agnostic. We are not going to play favorites. It will be up to the researchers to decide where they're going to compute. And our job is to facilitate that. Our program officer at the NSF is Deep Mehdi. So let me just give you the basic rationale and scope of CloudBank. The NSF views it as a 5-year pilot project to see if we can do this. It is funded under a cooperative agreement. And the goal is to make it easier for SCI's researchers and educators to use the public cloud. So initially, the scope is somewhat narrow in terms of the programs and researchers that it supports, but we have designed it to scale out and scale up. The project is organized into 3 main efforts: a user portal, which is developed out of SDSC, and Shava Smallen is the lead on that effort. An education and training effort that is led by University of Washington with support from UC Berkeley. And then last but not least is financial management, which is a key part of making things easier. And that is led out of our UCSD's Information Technology Service Division in partnership with Strategic Blue, our reseller. So CloudBank is focused initially on specific NSF size solicitations. So only specific NSF solicitations are eligible for cloud resources through CloudBank, and the solicitation will state that eligibility explicitly. So far, there have only been 2 solicitations to do so: Smart and Connected Communities, which is now closed, and Cyber Physical Systems, which is still open. We're told that the whole size core program, which consists of many calls, will also support CloudBank, but we have yet to see that. So the way it works is PIs request cloud resources in a supplementary document to the main proposal. So it is not reflected in the formal NSF budget. Cloud funding does not pass through the awardee institution. It passes to CloudBank. And the total of your formal budget request and the cloud request must not exceed the total allowable request for the solicitation. Cloud resources are free of IDC. That was stipulated by the NSF. So they're treated like equipment. And here you see the first value of CloudBank, which is that since the cloud resources funding does not pass through the home institution, IDC is not charged. Now you might say, well, what's the problem? Isn't everything perfect? And the answer is no. If you interview researchers who use the public clouds, they have a lot of gripes. And there's some quotes here on this slide that you can't read. I'll just highlight a few to give you the flavor. Setting up your first experiment in the cloud is too time consuming and different for each cloud platform. I just don't have enough time to learn all this. Can you give me a jump start? We need billing help. It's opaque as to what is going on, and I don't have time to wade through this. So basically what we heard from researchers is that there are pain points, and they have to do with account management, account monitoring, and financial management. And so these are the things that CloudBank has focused on almost exclusively. So CloudBank provides managed services to address these pain points. And here's a list of what we provide: cloud solution consulting, cloud training, assistance creating the proposal in the first place, onboarding, account setup, user management, and offboarding, tools for PIs to grant permissions to their research group members and students, and a unified cost reporting across cloud providers with spend alerts. On the financial side, through Strategic Blue, we are able to bundle multiple small requests into a larger bulk request to the cloud providers, providing leverage to secure discounts. And these are passed along as savings to the researchers. So let me show this graphically. If you remember nothing else, this is the thing to remember. So we start with researchers sitting in their institutions. Of course, these days we sit at home in our living rooms, but one day we'll return to our institutions, I'm sure. They submit proposals to CloudBank eligible solicitations. If they are funded, the normal funds to support grad students and postdocs goes to the institution as normal. However, the cloud funds requested through the supplementary document flow directly to CloudBank and are held on account. And hence the word bank in CloudBank. The metaphor is a commercial bank that holds funds on account and is facile with account management and reporting. A CloudBank then, through the user portal, creates accounts for the PI and the users. The PI has control over creating user accounts, adding, deleting, monitoring, setting limits and so forth, then the researcher is good to go. They can access the clouds through the portal. And at this point, we are supporting these three. The cloud platforms report the usage on those accounts to Strategic Blue, which is essentially the financial back office to this project. But the reporting is also sent to the cloud portal so that users and fund managers can have visibility into that spend. Strategic Blue pays the cloud vendors on a usage basis. In other words, the money is not pushed to the cloud, it stays on account at CloudBank. CloudBank pays Strategic Blue, who then pay the cloud vendor for the usage. And then finally, CloudBank is going to assist with education, outreach, and training on the conduct of the research. And this loop is where we hope to engage the campus champions. So if you look into one of these NSF solicitations, you can find this language from the current cyber physical systems solicitation. And the guidance is pretty skimpy. If you request cloud computing resources, include a description of your requests not to exceed 2 pages. Include title of proposal, the total cost of the computing resources with a yearly breakdown, which public cloud providers you will use, and a technical description and justification of the request, along with how the cost was estimated. Sounds easy, right? But here's the rub. There are, as you know, there are hundreds of offerings across the providers, and figuring out what to use for your research can be confusing. So this is another function for the CloudBank user portal, is to provide that information in a way, in a format that allows for side-by-side comparisons of the cloud provider offerings, as well as educational resources such as help videos. And you'll get a better sense of this when Shava demonstrates the portal. But the portal is really the place where you will do everything from work on your proposal supplement to managing your award after you've gotten it. Now, if you still need help, CloudBank does provide some frontline user support at this email address. And we would like to ask the campus champions who are interested in learning more and helping out with this, this project to email that address as well, and we'll take note of that and onboard you. So we work with the cloud providers on your behalf. As I said, the campus champions have a role to play here. And of course, the cloud providers have technical personnel on many of the larger campuses, and those would be also available to help. So what we're envisioning is an ecosystem growing up around the support of researchers working in the public cloud. Once you figure out what you want to put in your proposal, you will use the public cloud calculators to determine your costs, and you can jump to these calculators from the user portal with a click of a mouse. You can request more than one provider in your proposal, and if you have room in your supplementary doc, you could even add a screenshot showing the calculator output. Now, because cloud offerings evolve rapidly, you can switch to a different provider after your award. And the reason why you can switch is that CloudBank holds your funds. It only pays on a per use basis. So your funds are not locked into a vendor's bank. They're in our bank. So that provides flexibility for the researcher. In year two, we're currently in year one, but in year two, we will be standing up a center of excellence, which will be an opportunity for partnering with groups like the Campus Champions. This is envisioned to be a community-driven organization where best practices and experiences are shared. There will be cross-promotion of resources, programs, and expertise. Annual workshop, training, and other events. We would leverage the usual set of conferences and workshops, which are currently in suspension mode, but they'll come back at some point. PERC, Exceed, Campus Champions, the Gateway Institute. And of course, we can also leverage the cloud provider workshops, webinars, and events. So look for the Center of Excellence in year two. I said this is a 5-year project. We are nearing the end of year one, which is the construction phase. Years 2 through 5 are the production phase, which begins August 1st. And but the reality is the NSF has already released several CloudBank eligible solicitations, and we are expecting more. So we are already operating in a production capacity now. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Shava to demo the portal, and then we'll come back for a Q&A session. Thank you. I'm going to stop share.
Okay. So I'm gonna, as Mike mentioned, give you a quick demo of the user portal, but I'm gonna start with one slide. So the goal again of the user portal is to be a place where PIs can come to learn about what CloudBank is. And then if they are awarded, the portal will help onboard them to the cloud providers with as little friction as possible. So on the top here, we have the 4 main consumers of the portal that we're aiming to serve. On the top left, we have the funder, which is initially NSF. And they will want to come to the portal to upload new awards. And then once those awards are given, be able to monitor usage. Then we have the PIs in orange, and they will come to the CloudBank portal to learn how to prepare their proposal to NSF. If they are awarded, they will then come to the portal to get onboarded. They'll be able to view their accounts, be able to view the balances, add and delete users from those accounts, optionally set a budget, and also monitor usage. And then in the red, we have the end users who will be launching and managing the services on the cloud. They can come to CloudBank to learn how to get started using the training materials. They'll be able to see all of their accounts in one place, any budgets that might be set, and again, monitoring usage. And then if they run into any problems running on the cloud, they can request help from us. So it'll be kind of the first point of access. And then another consumer that we added earlier this year is the institutes themselves that the PIs come from. And we had met with a group in January, and there was a lot of interest in the institutes knowing how CloudBank was being used on their campus. And so we wanted to provide some visibility there as well. So moving down into the architecture diagram, you can see the user portal in gray with its components, and then underneath there is CloudBank in green with our partner Strategic Blue. And our goal with the portal is to be able to provide functionality to set up accounting and billing management, as much of it automated as possible, so that we can onboard PIs quickly. Enable them to add either members of their group or students to their funds, and then towards the end of their award, facilitate the offboarding process. We're leveraging a tool called Nutanix Beam, which is a multi-cloud cost monitoring tool. This will help us monitor the usage in the various accounts that we create, and then charge it back to the appropriate PI funds. So PIs and users will also have access to Beam, and this will enable them to see all of their accounts together in one place. Then our partner, Strategic Blue, will be the one negotiating the pricing with the providers and essentially paying the bills, as Mike mentioned. And then our goal is to support the users with training and documentation resources, help desk support, and at a glance, public cloud services catalog. So the portal itself is built on Drupal 8. As I mentioned, we're leveraging Nutanix Beam for the cost monitoring capabilities. And then we're also leveraging CI logon so that users can log into the portal and into the Cloud Web Consoles using their Institute credentials. No need to issue separate usernames and passwords. And then we're leveraging Zendesk for our help desk support. So I'll go ahead now and switch to the demo. Oops. There we go. Okay. Oops, wrong. There we go. Okay, so here I am on the CloudBank portal. And if I go ahead and log in with CI logon, those of you who are familiar with CI logon in other capacities will recognize this screen. This one's scanned a little bit for CloudBank. But I'm going to be logging in with my UCSD credentials. That shows up by default. But if you're from a different institution, you know, you can just scroll and find your own institution. So our partners at University of Washington would click here. But I'm going to go ahead and log in with our UCSD credentials. And if I want to skip this in the future, I can just click that box. But for demo purposes, I leave it off. So this gets us to our UCSD Sign On page. And we have Duo for two-factor authentication. So I just have to do a quick approval. And that gets us into the portal. There are two new menus that show up when you're logged in. Currently, there's a dashboard menu, which you see here, and then a training menu as well, which references some of the materials that Mike mentioned earlier. So I'm going to start with showing you the dashboard and with the CloudBank services catalog. So our goal here was to kind of provide an overview of the services that are offered by the different public clouds. And it's not comprehensive at this point. We are trying to focus on the categories of services that we thought would be relevant, most relevant to the size community. And then you can see the different services in an at-a-glance table. So as Mike mentioned, we are supporting AWS, Google, and Azure by our release date on August 1st. We've also spoken to IBM Cloud, and they'll probably be coming online sometime in 2021. But they were interested in getting their content in place by the August 1st so that users could start seeing their portfolio as well. And actually all of the providers have been given edit access so they can help us keep this catalog up to date as new services are added. So if you scroll down, you can see an initial categorization of services that are offered in the cloud. We had added this IoT category because of the Smart and Connected Community solicitation and the CPS one that Mike mentioned earlier. But you can click down on any of these categories and you get a drop down with a little bit of a definition of what that category of service means, and then a table. And then in the table, the rows are subcategories of services. So batch data processing under big data, stream data processing. And you might, I don't know if that can show up, but you see there's an underline here, and that means you can scroll over and get a definition of what that service is in more detail. And then along the columns here, we have the different cloud providers. And then in each cell, you see what that service is called on each of the cloud providers. So if I click on, for example, the Google BigQuery, I get a short explanation of what that service is that comes directly from the cloud provider, and then a convenience link for more information. The other thing we wanted to link into the catalog were training materials as well. So we had one example under our EC2 where you can see that we have one training module so far on how you can start up a Jupyter Notebook with AWS. So, we hope this will be useful to PIs as they're kind of trying to explore what services they might want before estimating their costs for a proposal. But then once they're on board, if they want to explore new services that they didn't necessarily anticipate at proposal time, they could come back here and do that as well. So next, what I wanted to show you was the PI functionality. And so for those of you familiar with the Exceed user portal, where you have access to allocations and you're giving users access to your allocations, same idea here, except that we're using the term fund, kind of going with our banking terminology, and to indicate that it is a dollar spend. And so here I'm logged in, as a user, and I can see 3 funds that I have access to, which would correspond to grants. So there's a start, an end date, and then an award amount, and then the balance and the percentage of the balance remaining. These get updated or pulled from the Nutanix Bean tool about 2 to 4 times a day. And those get updated. We provide also email notifications when like the first 1% of your fund is spent, then at 10% increments, and then at 20% we do daily updates. So the goal here is to be able to give as much information as we can about how that spend is going on. And then I am seeing these funds here because I'm a PI on this particular one fund here, and co-PI, and then a PI on this fund here. So I'm going to drill down into one of these funds in a little bit more detail. In this particular fund, I've set up access to all 3 providers. And here you can see underneath what we call the linked billing accounts. And basically what this is some bucket where we can track spending within a particular cloud and then be able to charge it back to your appropriate fund. So for those who might be more familiar with the cloud providers, in Azure, this corresponds to a subscription. In Google, this corresponds to a project. And in AWS, this corresponds to an account. And at any point, as Mike mentioned, when you're preparing your proposal, if you started with an estimate with AWS, but then you want to explore other clouds as well, like say a new service is added and you want to take a look, you can add a new billing account at any point on any of the providers. And we also allow for you to create more than one billing account per provider. And one of the use cases for that is, if you had a student and you really wanted to separate their work from, like, say, the work of your group, this would provide an easy way to do that. You could probably do the same thing within the provider by using identity access management controls and setting up tagging, but this is just a little bit easier way to accomplish the same goal. So we're trying to reduce as much friction as we can to using the providers. And so here you can also then drill down and see, who has access to this account. And this particular one, there's 6 of us who have access to it. There's some initial privileges that we provide, either login, which is basically read-only access, and then administrator access. And these are just kind of to get you into the door. So this will allow you to basically, once you're added, be able to federate in and log in using your institute credentials. And then once you're in, those permissions can be fine-tuned. As you know, there's lots of different combinations of permissions that you can set within these different cloud providers. So this is, the Google access here. Same thing with AWS. And if we want to add somebody new, we can do so. And for example, Dana, I added you yesterday. And if I give you read access, you should be able to log in, I think, with either your Internet 2 or Exceed credentials. So if you can give that a try later, let me know how that goes. So at that point, if Dana were to log in, she would come here back to the dashboard and be able to view all of her billing accounts in one place. So myself as a user, I can see that I have access to a few AWS accounts, a few GCP projects, and one Azure subscription. So this page will kind of give you the overview of where you have access, and will also give you the ability to log into the web consoles using your Institute credentials through CI Logon. And so here in this column, we have these convenience links for you to be able to log in. So if I, for example, click here on AWS, the first time I do it, it's going to prompt me to the CI Logon. But I can also skip that in the future if I want to. That gets me into AWS console. And here you can see that I did a federated login. And this is to an IAM role. And then I logged in with my UCSD credentials. Same idea for Google. Let's see here. And let's get me into the Google console. If I click here, you can see that my username is a cloudbank.org username. And then likewise, we just got Azure working actually last week. So this is brand new. That's one thing we'll have to trim off, but same idea. And here I am logged in as well. So the idea is, we want to reduce as much friction as possible, get people onto the consoles as quickly as we can. So with the last thing I want to do is show you next the Beam console that I mentioned earlier. So this is the multi-cloud cost monitoring tool that I mentioned in the first slide I presented. And there's two modes of operation in Beam. The first is the cost governance mode. So here I'm actually logged in as an administrator, so I see more accounts than a normal user would. But here in this first dashboard page, you can see, here's the spend to date to this month, and it breaks it down by service. Primarily the usage has been in EC2 and RDS. And then on this panel here, you can see historical spend data. You can view the accounts or view the information by breakdown by specific accounts. You can break it down by services, and you can also break it down by locations. So it's the same data that you can get directly from the cloud providers, but the nice thing here is that you see all of your accounts together in one place. And then the other feature that Beam has is saving recommendations. So there's two types of recommendations that it'll make. If you have under or unused resources, it'll recommend that you eliminate them. And then if you have underutilized resources, it'll recommend that you resize them. So you can always click down and get more information about their specific recommendations. So for example, here it's recommending that we are seeing that we have what it thinks is underutilized EC2 instance. I can click on that and I can get more information about the recommendation. So what it's telling me is that I have a T2 small instance, and it's saying that based on the CPU and networking usage, it thinks that I could downsize to a T2 nano instance. However, this particular account we're using for our dev portal, so we don't expect a lot of traffic on it, and we found that actually the memory usage on a T2 Nano was not quite enough for us, so that's why we've kept it at a T2 small. But it's nice that Beam provides this recommendation for us, and if there was an opportunity to save money, this would give us the visibility to do that. So next I wanted to show you the other mode of operation for Beam, which is the security compliance views. And so out of the box, Beam has, I think, 250 different, I think 250 checks that it can run against accounts that are set up in the cloud. That's extensible as well. I have not done it yet myself, but supposedly you can extend the security checks by writing Python scripts. But then what it does is you can see the results of the results in these compliance views. So UCSD itself has set up one compliance view where you can see the results of the security checks. But there's different kinds of policies that you could select as well. So for example, HIPAA, I think there's the CIS one here as well. And what you see here in this summary view is the number of issues that it found in high, medium, and low severity. And a lot of the issues that it raises are not necessarily about running instances, but more about the default configuration that comes with a brand new account. And so we're working with a student right now to get the Beam recommendations for example, for AWS accounts implemented so that when users get to this page, they see all green to start. And then once they start running their services, then they'll see different colors of recommendations show up for them. So this is still a work in progress, but to give you an idea of what's available there. And then Beam also has recently added this compliance timeline. So I think this would be really useful because you could be in compliance, then pop out of compliance, and it'd be nice to know when that happened. So that will give you that visibility there. You can kind of also see where you rate against different policies that Beam has defined. And at any point, you can also, like with the optimization, click down and get more information. So here it has the number of issues categorized. And so if I click on data security, for example, I can see some of the recommendations. So here, for example, it's recommending that we had turned on encryption on the volume that we created for our instance. And then you can click down and get more information about how to address that security recommendation. So with that, I think that's what I wanted to show so far in the demo. So I think maybe we can switch back to our questions that we wanted to ask to the cloud provider, or to the campus champions, sorry. And Mike, do you want to go over this slide?
Yeah. Okay, let me get my...
Do you want to share or?
Yeah, I'm going to share.
Okay.
I just need to...
Hey, Mike, while you're doing that, this is Sean. I noticed possibly that Dana dropped off, maybe a connection. I don't know if she's on.
I made it back. My internet became unstable briefly.
Okay, no problem.
But
And
I was able to log into CloudBank, so thanks, Shava.
Excellent.
And also, I wanted to point out, Dana, just in the moment that you were off, you are getting questioned in the chat. So however you want to handle those Q&A in the chat.
Okay, so I'm only going to be able to see the one. I see one from Faru, but may have missed some before that. I also have a Google Doc here if folks want to type it in there so we have a bit of a record. I'll put that in the chat. So there's a Google Doc in the chat box. If you want to go down there and scroll down, there's a spot to put questions there, which end up being a little bit easier to come back to.
Okay, so we just put together a few discussion questions, but we're willing to go in any direction. So first, what are some of the main challenges you face in helping your researchers use the public cloud? What has been effective in helping them overcome these challenges? And now that you know a little bit about CloudBank, how might we collaborate with you? So let me open the floor